Hello, everyone. Thanks for being here this afternoon. I'm Katie. I coordinate the University Express program, and we're here with Jenny Ferrentino from Wegmans. Hey, Jenny.
Hi.
Thank you for being here too.
Thanks.
And it looks like we have some new folks on, which is always exciting that we're reaching more people. And we always love our regulars, but the new ones are fun too. So quickly, I'll go through our housekeeping. We are recording. I'll try to post this on our website in the near future. If you have any questions during this presentation, feel free to type those in our Q&A panel. If you're on a laptop, it's located at the lower right-hand side of your screen. Just click on that to expand it and send your questions to me. And a tablet or smartphone, touch your screen, click on that circle with 3 dots. There you'll find your Q&A. And same thing for you. Expand that text box and send your questions to me. So we'll thank our sponsors, which is my Department of Senior Services, Blue Cross Blue Shield of Western New York, Excelsior Orthopedics, and Wegmans for all they do for us. And as always, Senior Services is here for you if you need anything or you're not even sure what you need. Start with us. We're at 858-8526. So our speaker, Jenny is a registered dietitian nutritionist who graduated from DUville College. She has been excited to share her nutrition knowledge with the employees and customers at Wegmans stores throughout Buffalo and Erie, PA ever since. She enjoys learning about new products and sharing how people can incorporate those foods to help them live healthier, better lives. And we're learning some good stuff today. Jenny, thanks. It's all yours.
Thanks so much, Katie. I am so excited to be with you all here this afternoon. Like Katie said, my name is Jenny Ferrentino. I'm a registered dietitian and I'm the nutritionist with Wegmans. And I'm going to turn off my video here in a second, but just want to say hi and that today I'm super excited for the topic that we're going to be talking about today, which is forgetting fad diets and talking about the real habits that you need to succeed no matter your health and wellness journey. So I'm going to stop my video and advance to the next slide here. And Katie, if you can just let me know that you guys see that.
Yep, we see it. Thanks, Jenny.
All right, perfect. So on the screen here, we've got a bunch of different images, and I wanted to just kind of give a little bit of a representation because I think we've all been at the checkout lane or been on social media, and we've seen those posts and those articles that promote and promise a quick fix to help us lose weight, get healthy, whatever that might be. And you might have noticed that these trends and these diets and promises disappear just as quickly as they appeared. And every single day, there seems to be a new breakthrough, quote unquote, that promises the success that those previous diets weren't able to deliver on. So, with all of that noise that's out there, it can be really hard to distinguish fact from fiction. So, first up, I wanted to discuss how do we even spot a fad diet with all that stuff that's out there? There are a few indicators that should really make us stop and take a pause and think. When we see a headline or we hear people talking about a diet, if we see these indicators, we really want to stop and think to ourselves, is this a fad diet? And some of those indicators include an elimination of an entire food group or nutrient. I think we see this a lot of the times with some of these diets that are out there. They'll promise you all you have to do is eliminate carbs or never eat fat or whatever it may be, never only eat beans. I don't know. But eliminating an entire food group is supposed to be that promise of that quick fix to save it all. That's usually an indicator of a fad diet. Something that sounds too good to be true. So I think if you remember on that last slide, there was one of the headlines, lose 10 pounds in 10 days. I'm here to tell you that no medical professional will tell you that that's something that you can do. Most people, recommend for long-term weight loss 1 to 2 pounds a week. So 10 pounds in 10 days sounds great if you have an event like a wedding or something coming up. But that's probably going to be as a result of a diet that, isn't based necessarily in science or isn't meant to be long-term. It's one of these fad diets. Or maybe a diet lists off some good or bad foods. And I have them in quotes there because as a dietitian, I never speak to anybody that foods are good or bad. Some foods have a bigger nutritional boost to them, absolutely, but all foods fit. And any diet that tells you that a food is good or bad is in turn telling you that you are good or bad based on the choices that you make. And that can't be a healthy relationship with food or with yourself. So if you ever see that good or bad or green light, red light is a new way of putting that, seems less, abrasive than good or bad, but you'll see green light foods and red light foods. That's often an indication of a fad diet. Some of these diets also have really rigid rules, and they generally only focus on weight loss. And while our weight is a contributor to our overall health, by no means is it the only contributor of our health. So if we're looking to a diet to help us live a healthier, better life overall, we'll want to focus on more than just our weight loss. So if a diet really is just talking about that weight loss and it really has those really rigid rules, and I think that's the key part of this as well, might be that indicator that, hey, I might have a fad diet on my hand. A lot of them also promote a specific product or a book. Buy this book and you'll learn all the secrets to success, or don't change anything in your life, just buy this supplement and it will be everything you need to lose weight and get healthy, or whatever that may be. Um, you know, I would tell you that if a specific book or product was the key to weight loss success and it worked for everybody and it worked long term, you probably wouldn't be buying it on the shelf at Wegmans for $12.99. Somebody's going to patent that. Somebody's going to make that cost a whole lot more because, hey, the magic key, that would be really great if it was out there. I'm here to tell you it's not out there yet. And, if a specific product or book, is part of something cool, that's awesome. But the promotion of that and like selling those items as the one thing you need to success most likely is an indicator of a fad diet. Like I said, many fad diets promote quick weight loss without taking into account the nutrients your body needs. These weight loss plans rarely help you over the long haul, and some can even cause health problems. Fad diets are all grappling for your attention, so it's really important to analyze what they're offering before giving them a try. So I'd like to just pause for a moment. If you'd like to put it into the Q&A or the chat box, definitely feel free to do so. But just think to yourself, what diets have you heard of or maybe tried yourself? If we took the time to have everybody put in into like that Q&A box or something like that, all the ones that they came up with, I'm betting we're going to hear a ton of different answers of those diets that are out there. And we could spend hours probably sitting and going through all of those. And I want to take a moment too to say that if you've ever tried or considered one of these diets, know that you're not alone. Nearly 45 million people in the US go on weight loss programs each year. That's a lot of us. And the diet industry and weight loss industry has grown to a $71 billion industry. So it's a lucrative market out there. And if you've ever been tempted to try or have tried any of these things, know that, like I said, you're not alone. We've all been there. If we had the time, I'd sit and tell you all the different ones that I've tried. And we all try them. We all go on and off, and they don't necessarily work, but hey, they do a really good job of advertising with $71 billion behind them. There's a lot to go out there and to think about. I know, like I said, that I'm sure you guys have a lot of great ones out there that you can think of that are that you've heard of or tried. I want to go through and just talk about 4 different diets or fads that we hear people talking a lot about recently, and just kind of take a look at them and see, do they measure up? Are these diets consider what we would consider fad diets based on that criteria that we talked about earlier? It is important, I want to just state that before you try any different eating approach, it's incredibly imperative that you check with your primary care practitioner to make sure that this diet would be safe for you to try. So before going out there and try anything that we're talking about today, make sure you talk to your doctor first. So the first diet I'm going to touch on here is the keto diet or ketogenic diet. And what many people might not know is that the ketogenic diet is in fact a medical diet, and it was used and is used to treat children with epilepsy. And that's just based on changing the fuel source of the brain, which changes the chemistry and reduces the amount of seizures that these children may have. This diet is very high fat, moderate in protein, and incredibly low in carbohydrates, and is always done under medical supervision. It has been recently popular though, everywhere from, TikTok to social media to books in the store to, I'm sure people or maybe yourself, as offering a variety of different benefits. But I will say that there have been no long-term studies to support the long-term claims that the keto diet is offering. And there also haven't been any studies to really ID if there's any long-term risks to following this restrictive diet. Generally, when we talk about a healthy pattern of eating, we usually say, a lower fat and really focusing on those healthy fats. So it's something of concern that, research just needs to kind of go back out there and look and say, if we're doing a high fat diet, especially not under medical supervision, keto recipes often highlight things like bacon. What's the long-term effect of eating a lot of bacon? Because in general, our understanding of saturated fat is that that's not good long-term for heart health. So science is still waiting to see if that's going to be a good one long-term. Next up is Whole30. This diet eliminates foods like dairy, grains, and legumes, and is only meant to be followed for 30 days, hence the name Whole30. It's not a great solution then for long-term eating habits, since you're really only supposed to be following it for that elimination phase for 30 days. So what are you supposed to do after that on that 31st day? It's really strict with its rules, and those strict rules can lead to feelings of deprivation and then guilt if you don't end up following the diet perfectly. Next up are cleanses and detoxes. And they make claims of rapid weight loss and removal of toxins from your body. These typically require that you purchase expensive juices, supplements, or teas. But what's really important to remember with cleanses and detoxes is that your body is perfectly capable of detoxing itself through the functions of our kidneys and livers. That's what they're there to do. As long as they're in good working order, they're taking care of detoxing your body. No need for an expensive tea to do that. While these diets may give short-term weight loss, that's usually through water weight, since most of the cleanses and detoxes are diuretics. In general, these diets are extremely ineffective for long-term weight loss. The final diet that I just wanted to touch on is intermittent fasting. And this restricts the time frame in which you eat. So it doesn't restrict specific foods, it just restricts the time of day in which you're eating. And that time range can range from a really small window throughout the day that you're eating, or it can be going entire days without consuming food. This type of restriction can lead to binge eating in the windows in which you are, quote, allowed to eat. It can also really restrict your ability to engage in activities that involve food, especially if they fall outside of your restricted window. If you're only eating from 11 to 7, going out to breakfast with your friends and family, or maybe having, a celebration later in the day wouldn't work for you because you're not eating during that time frame. Studies are also showing that this pattern of eating is no more effective than an overall calorie reduction long-term when it comes to weight loss. So there's been some really interesting studies that have come out recently that in the short term, somebody who is intermittent fasting may lose weight slightly faster than if you were to just do an overall reduction in your calorie intake, but that long term, there's no difference. So, why bother? Why restrict the times of day in which you're eating? Enjoy food all day long. Just do it with a little bit more of a calorie consciousness with it. So now that we've talked a little bit about what we want to keep an eye out when it comes to fad diets, you may be wondering, how should I be eating if I really want to support my health goals? And at Wegmans, we have a mission to help people live a healthier, better life through food. And we believe that healthy eating means bringing balance, variety, and moderation to your overall pattern of eating. And with that in mind, we created something called our Guidelines for Healthy Eating. And I'm going to share that with you. Now, I understand that this is going to be incredibly difficult to look at if you're looking at anything smaller than a large computer screen. So I will share this with Katie afterwards. I did a presentation on this last year, and if you attended that, you might recognize this a little bit. But what this is an updated version of our healthy guidelines, which are based on the dietary guidelines for Americans and the Mediterranean diet. And if you pay attention to the world of the FDA and dietary patterns for guidelines like I do, those were recently updated last year, which is why we updated this as well. I want to say that when we talk about these dietary guidelines, and I mention the word diet when I'm referencing this, I'm simply referring to what we eat or an eating approach, not a diet, not going on a diet, but our dietary pattern, our approach to eating. And these guidelines really encourage eating a variety of foods in varying amounts, serving sizes, and frequencies. Studies have shown that a pattern of eating that includes a variety of these foods really helps to prevent and protect against chronic conditions like high blood pressure, certain cancers, heart disease, diabetes, and more. And while our dietary guidelines aren't necessarily a prescription, quote unquote, for weight loss, if you feel better because the foods that you're eating are providing you with energy and fuel and getting you what you need, you may have more energy and desire to do things like working out or being more active, which in turn can lead to weight loss. And also too, if you're going from a standard Western style diet of, high in fast food and saturated fat and switching to a more Mediterranean style of eating that really focuses on those whole foods and plant foods, it maybe lead to a calorie change, which could in turn lead to weight loss as well, if that's something that you're interested in. If you're able to see the guidelines as you read through them, you might notice, like I said, that emphasis on plant-based foods like fruits and veggies, whole grains, nuts, seeds, dried beans, and legumes. In addition to promoting health, this plant-forward pattern of eating can be incredibly affordable and sustainable. So if you're working on a fixed budget when it comes to your food, getting your protein from sources like nuts and seeds and beans and lentils and legumes, it can be a really cost-effective way of doing things. Buying fresh produce that's in season or canned or frozen items. There's lots of ways that you can follow this pattern of eating in a very financially sustainable way. And we know that plant-forward eating is generally more sustainable for our environment as well. There are three important notes about the healthy eating guidelines. And the first one that I want to say is that guidelines mean just that. They're there to guide you in the right direction. Unlike some of those fad diets with incredibly strict rules on what you can or cannot eat, this is just providing daily and weekly recommendations on how often we should enjoy these foods to help promote health. The guidelines don't need to be followed exactly. So while research shows that better health outcomes are seen from individuals whose eating habits align with these guidelines, simply enjoying more fruits or vegetables, or maybe one more serving of seafood each week, can typically have some health benefits for you. So those small little changes can make a big difference. The second thing I want to point out about these guidelines is that they can be modified. So if you have a special dietary need or a medical condition, you can always check with your doctor and find out ways that you can modify this pattern of eating to fit your specific needs. And lastly, and I said this at the beginning, they're not restrictive. Healthy eating, and I use that in quotes, allows room for your favorite foods, such as a sweet treat or pizza or chicken wings. The goal is to develop a pattern of eating that includes health promoting foods most of the time. So while having these guidelines is a really great jumping off point, and like I said, I'll share this with Katie so that you can have it for yourself. I like to print it off and have that back page with all the serving sizes and guidelines on my fridge, just as a reminder of what I'm looking at. Those guidelines might be a little bit overwhelming to think about, especially if you're just getting started on a health and wellness journey. So rather than setting really strict rules about I have to eat 2 servings of seafood and I must eat this and I must eat that, we really encourage people to develop habits that make it easy to support your goals. So next up, I want to share with you 3 habits that we believe are foundational for long-term success in living a healthier, better life through food. The first habit that I want to share with you is stock for success. And this is the where of what we eat, which can include your house, your desk, car, purse, wherever it is. I'm going on a road trip tomorrow. My car is definitely a place that I want to stock for success. We know that feeling your best starts with what you eat, and what you eat is usually determined by what you have on hand. So simply put, if it's there, you'll eat it. Make the easiest choice the one that you want to eat. The idea of Stock for Success is to make it easy to choose foods that support your health goals. To keep meals exciting throughout the year, pick seasonal items that deliver on both flavor and health. So as I'm stocking up throughout the year, the items that I stock might change. So for example, in the summer, I'm stocking up on fresh peaches that are, coming into our store. I feel like they're warm, still fresh off the tree. Or some light summer salads, especially with how hot it's been recently, with maybe some whole grains in it, like some quinoa. But as the seasons change, and I'm already looking forward to fall and winter, that might change and I might look to stock up on leafy greens or citruses, changing with the time of year and what's available. Another way to keep things exciting in the pantry is to pick flavors from around the world. So in doing that, it really allows you to change up a meal in just one step. So I like to keep on hand different kinds of sauces, whether it's stir fry sauce or an Indian tikka masala or something like that. And I can take a plain old chicken breast and totally change up the flavor and the meal by just changing the sauce. So it can take a lot of those staple items that we have generally all year long and create some variety and excitement in the diet. And remember, make the spaces work for you make your spaces work for you and set yourself up for delicious and nutritious success. The next habit that I want to talk about is balance your plate. And balancing your plate is really about the what of food, the answer to what goes on my plate. And no matter what diet plan you follow, this habit will work for you. The idea is to focus on foods that we need more of to support our health. Think of things like fruits and veggies, whole grains, nuts, seeds, beans, legumes, all the stuff that I kind of talked about, focusing on that plant forward pattern of eating with the guidelines. There's a lot of different ways to consider balancing your plate, including something that we call half plate healthy or the 80-20 rule. So I want to go ahead and just explain to you guys what both of those are really quick. So the idea of half plate healthy is if you imagine a plate in your head, you're filling half of that plate first with fruits, veggies, or salad. And then that other half of the plate, you can fill up with really whatever else it is that you want. This practice is, an easy way to get more fruits and veggies on your plate, and you'll naturally keep calories and portion sizes of the other portion of your plate in check, just naturally by the practice of filling that plate first half full with those fruits and veggies. As you become really more comfortable with that half plate healthy basic idea, you can really start to work on that other half of your plate and fill it up with things like whole grains versus refined grains, or lean protein versus, um, I'm blanking on the piece of meat that has all the fat on it. I want to say ribeye, but it's not that, but you guys know what I'm talking about. So as you become more familiar and comfortable with the idea of filling half of your plate, you may want to look at that other half of your plate and focus on some other food items that might help you reach your health goals. And if you're thinking about what you want to put on that other half of your plate, those healthy eating guidelines can really help you ID some other things that you might want to stick on there. Another way that you can think about balancing your plate is the 80-20 rule. And that's the idea, and you can do 80-20, you can do 70-30, whatever it is you want to do. But the idea is that 80% of the time you focus on health promoting foods, and the other 20% of the time could include less health promoting foods. So it's like taking that idea of half plate healthy, but kind of stretching it out over a long time frame. This concept, I think, works really great when it comes to things like celebrating holidays. So we have the 4th of July coming up, and that's on Sunday. So maybe you decide on Sunday we're gonna go crazy and enjoy all those wonderful, great foods, and you totally can do that. And then maybe the rest of the week you're just gonna focus a little bit more on those health promoting foods. That's awesome. That's balancing your plate. It also comes in really handy for one-off events like the Bills. So I just actually got done with a meeting talk about Bills season. So, we're all thinking Bills playoff before the season even starts. 80-20 rule is really great if you're going to be doing those game day celebrations. The important thing to think about with balancing your plate is that all foods fit, and you can use these techniques to really give yourself freedom to enjoy all foods. focusing on health promoting foods while saving space for other foods in our diet. The final habit that I wanted to talk about this afternoon is the idea of eating mindfully. And this is the habit of how we eat our food. This habit is all about bringing awareness and attention to the act of eating. Paying attention to your food and eating in this mindful way may decrease the likelihood of overeating. It can connect us with others and it can reduce stress. So I don't know about you guys, but there are plenty of times that I have ate a meal or a snack and I don't recall eating it. Especially if I'm sitting in front of the TV with a bag of chips or something like that, I could go through that whole bag of chips and not really even be aware of it because I'm not paying attention to what it is that I'm eating. Or I might finish a meal and realize I'm uncomfortably full because I wasn't really paying attention to how much of the food that I was eating, and kind of ate past the point of comfort. Or even worse, I might not even know how my food tastes. Maybe I've had some really wonderful, dinner prepared, or I'm eating a sweet treat and I eat it so fast and I'm so busy doing other things that I didn't even get to take time to sit and savor it. The practice of eating mindfully can help avoid or reduce the chances of those things happening. And it's an incredibly simple process. And it can be broken down into 4 steps. And excuse me, I'm going to take a drink here. And that's the perfect time to talk about the first step, which is to just breathe. So before you even take your first bite, take a few deep breaths and relax. This will help you to bring awareness to the moment that you're in. The next step of eating mindfully is to check in with how you're feeling. Without any judgment, just simply take time to say, how do I feel at this very moment? It's not a time to change how you feel, just acknowledge it. The next step in eating mindfully is to describe the food with all of your senses. How does it smell? How does it look? If you poke it with your fork, does it have a crunch to it? Is there a story behind the food? Is it a family recipe that's been passed down, or did you grow that in your garden, or do you know where this item was grown? Take time to fully describe your food, and this can really open a deeper connection with the food. And then finally, once you've done those 3 steps, it is time to enjoy the food, which really enjoys chewing slowly, paying attention to how that food feels and tastes, and enjoying how you feel when you eat something delicious. When you have that bite of chocolate cake, how does that feel? Enjoy that. Take that time to sit and say, all right, that sounds great. And those are the 4 steps. And it works for any of the food on your plate, from an orange to a piece of chocolate cake. It doesn't matter the health value. Any food can be eaten mindfully. It's a non-judgmental way of eating, and it does not require you to make any changes in the food you eat. And while that process is really simple, it can be daunting to eat mindfully. It takes time to go through those steps. So I encourage you, if it's something that you'd like to try, to really just work on doing it for your first bite of a meal. And then maybe grow that into a single meal, maybe a whole day. And maybe by the end of it, you'll be eating every meal mindfully. And if you can do that, I invite you to reach out to me and let me know how you're being so successful in that. Because even though it's something that I think we all try to do, we all have those moments where we're driving down the highway and eating something quick and all that good stuff. But if you can start working to eat towards eating mindfully, you'll find a lot of great success with that. So now that I have talked about those 3 habits, I want to share with you how you can put them into action. And just as a reminder, these 3 habits work no matter what dietary pattern you're following and no matter what health goals you have. So let's say I have a health goal to lower my blood pressure, and I know that eating more fruits and veggies can help me do that. So let's take a look at each of the habits to see how they can help me reach my goal of eating more fruits and veggies to help me with my blood pressure goal. So the first habit, again, stock for success, remembering that if it's there, I'll eat it. So I want to make sure that I stock up on produce to have it on hand when it's time to eat or prepare a meal. So I could take a small step this week to use the Wegmans app to create a shopping list to include more fresh fruits, veggies, and canned produce. So if I'm mindful to put it down and to write it out that that's what I'm going to be getting, I'll stock my kitchen for success and know that I'll have those fruits and veggies on hand when it's time to eat. That second habit was balance your plate. And if we think back to the idea of half plate healthy, the whole idea was filling half of my plate first, half of my plate first with fruits or veggies. That's a lot of F words in a row. Um, if I want to work on that habit this week, I could plan to chop up all the produce that I put on my list and brought home with me and have that in the fridge ready to go so that I could use it to make my lunches really quick this week. And that will help me just balance my plate a whole lot easier. I think sometimes we all have a really great intention when we buy our produce. And I don't know if you're like me, but sometimes then you find that bag of lettuce in the back of your fridge and it's been sitting there for a little bit too long, or buy a big bag of carrots and don't get to them in time. So I could set that habit to chop and prep that produce to really make balancing my plate a whole lot easier throughout the week, especially when things are busy. And then that last habit of eating mindfully. So when we're mindfully eating, we tend to be able to enjoy our food a whole lot more because we're paying attention to how it tastes and how it makes us feel. And I hear a lot from people that I just don't like veggies or I don't like the way that tastes. And sometimes that's absolutely true, but sometimes we're just not paying attention to the way we're eating it. So by eating it mindfully, it can really help increase our enjoyment of that food. So to work on eating more mindfully this week, I could just set a goal to pick a specific meal to try the technique at. So maybe tonight I'm having a salad for dinner, and I'm going to choose to eat mindfully when I'm eating that salad and really enjoy how it tastes, all the different textures in my salad, how it makes me feel while I'm eating it, all of that great stuff. And that might encourage me to eat those salad meals more often. So I want to thank you. I went over a lot from fad diets to habits to, oh my goodness, a lot of different content tonight. But I really wanted to take the time to say thank you for all of you for attending today's presentation. And I hope you're inspired to find balance and variety in your diet to help you live a healthier, better life. In a moment, I'm going to turn off the slides and I'll be back on camera with Katie and we'll be happy to answer any of your questions. But really quick, and I know my email's up on the screen, please feel free to email me with any questions that you have, but also feel free to visit wegmans.com/feel your best, all one phrase, feel your best. All of those habits that we talked about today are listed on there, along with a lot of other really great content. So please feel free to reach out there. There's also a nutrition FAQ that kind of goes over the things that we talked about with those fad diets as well. So I will turn off the slides, turn on my camera. Oh, maybe I should hit stop sharing. That's always good.
There you
And
go.
I'm back. Success. We made it.
Yes. Thank you, Jenny. That was wonderful.
Thanks, Katie.
Okay, so yeah, while you're taking a sip, take a breather. We've got some questions and comments here.
Okay.
The first comment, which I wholeheartedly agree with, is I love your stance on good versus bad foods.
Absolutely. Absolutely. You know, I think there's something innocent about saying good versus bad, and it's hard, especially from a nutrition perspective, when we want to talk about foods that promote health. But when we go down that world of talking good versus bad, it can be really dangerous mindset. And for a lot of people, can really lead to that negative self-talk as well. So if we can try to eliminate those good versus bad conversations, I think we'll all be a whole lot better for it.
I agree. Okay, this next question is, I have a terrible sweet tooth. What suggestions can you give to combat this?
So I will say, first and foremost, if you are craving something sweet, most of the time it's because your body's telling you you might need something that's coming from that food. So something that a lot of us do is we tend to eat around our craving. So let's say I'm craving something sweet, but I'm like, oh, I know I shouldn't have those Oreo cookies. I might start with eating an apple, and then I might eat this, and then I might eat that, and nothing satisfies that craving until I eventually eat the Oreos. And now I've probably ate a whole host of things and the Oreo cookies when I probably would have been satisfied if I took the time to eat those Oreo cookies that I was really craving mindfully going through that mindful eating habit and technique, really enjoying and savoring it, you may find that over time, you'll start to crave and want those foods a little bit less because you know that you're going to enjoy them. You know what it tastes like. And that really kind of relieves and alleviates some of that stress. So if you're craving something, I encourage you, and I know this sounds terrifying, to go ahead and eat the food that you're craving, to eat it mindfully. And you'll find that over time, those cravings start to shift a little bit. There's a concept of intuitive eating, which is taking mindful eating a step further. And it says that, when you want something, to go ahead and eat it. And that's a really scary concept because we think, and I'm guilty of this as well, if I have ice cream in my house, I'm going to eat the whole gallon of ice cream in one sitting. But when you know that you can have the ice cream anytime you want, you'll find that you tend to crave it less. It doesn't have that allure as much.
That makes a lot of
Yeah,
sense.
okay. I was gonna say
Yeah.
I could go on a tangent about intermittent fasting or intermittent eating, and maybe that's something that we go for a future topic.
All right, I'll write it
Yeah.
down. Thanks, Jenny. Let's see. This next question is, do you have any go-to comments to say when someone comments on how healthy you are eating? My family does this all the time and it's tiring.
Sure. So there are a lot of great dietitians that are out there that focus specifically on that kind of content. Nicole Cruz, Cruz, is on Instagram and Facebook, and she's somebody that, especially around kids and like how do you talk to people about food choices that we have. She has some really great content out there. But, when somebody comments, oh, you're eating really healthy, be like, thanks, I really enjoy these foods. And, rather than making it a moral conversation, making it about something that's really neutral about the food. Thanks, I like the way that this salad tastes, or, you know, something along those lines versus, again, that good and bad conversation. And it's the exact opposite too when people are saying like, oh, you shouldn't eat that, it's not healthy. Be like, all foods fit in my healthy pattern of eating, and I'm going to enjoy this. Thank you. But it's really hard. We live in a diet focused culture. Again, $71 billion in the diet industry. Um, and we're told all the time that there's a right and a wrong way to eat. And hopefully we're getting to a better part of that. But unfortunately, it's going to take all of us on this call together. We'll all get together and we can all eat whatever food we want and nobody will judge us.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Thank you, Jenny. This next comment that I'm seeing is, I'm trying not to drink my calories. This was a great
Mm.
presentation.
Yeah, our drinking calories is definitely a thing. Beverages are our biggest source of added sugar, which is calories. So being mindful of the items that we choose to drink opens up a whole host of other foods that we can eat if we're being mindful of our calories. So great thing to be mindful of.
Mm, definitely. Thank you. Okay, the last thing I'm seeing here is, thanks for the presentation. Can't wait to start putting these tips into action.
Awesome, wonderful.
Yeah, we'll
Glad
just
to
give it
hear it.
another we'll give it another second here to see if anything else comes through. So feel free to type it in the Q&A, folks. Jenny, since you have yours up, do you want to peek and see if anyone sent you anything directly? It's the right
Sure.
side of your screen. Just hit that caret to expand it. If it's not working, that's okay.
Oh, somebody just put in the Ideal You program. We were talking
Ah,
about different fad diets, and I know some people who have done the Ideal You, and absolutely that one's that's very restrictive. And when you go off of it, a lot of people really struggle with what's next when you're not eating those really focused foods, and you have the ability to eat what you want. That can be really scary and a dangerous time for people because they haven't learned habits that really support their daily life. And I think that's the big thing with all of those fad diets is they're for that short term and they don't teach you how to exist, in society. We don't live in these little bubbles where we can perfectly control everything. And that can cause a lot of stress when you're at an event or doing something or you want to go enjoy something, but it doesn't fit what you're supposed to be eating. That can be really difficult long term. And, the Ideal You, people lose an amazing, incredible amount of weight. And I hope I wish those people all this success long term. But I always wonder what skills are they learning once they go off that diet.
that's a really great point. Are you seeing anything else? Because I just had something pop in.
Nothing else on my screen.
Okay, so we have great presentation. Hope you do more.
Absolutely. I'll be back this fall.
Back in the fall. And then I'm seeing a lot of commercials for the Noom diet. It says that it
Yeah.
changes your thinking. What are your thoughts on that?
So the Noom diet is one of those good versus bad food diets. So it really categorizes food into that, and they do the stoplight system, so the green, red, or yellow foods. Um, and I think that a lot of these fad diets can be utilized if you have a really great perspective on it and don't have a lot of negative self-talk when it comes to food. But I know for myself personally and some others that I've talked to, when you take those foods and you say that they're red, regardless of what the food is, and I haven't personally been into Noom, but I've heard that like some like avocados might be a red food, and just because they're high in fat, but they're high in unsaturated fat and they taste great. And if you really enjoy avocados and the Noom diet tells you you can never have them again, that can set up a lot of guilt if you decide to enjoy some guacamole with your chips or something like that. So, it talks about the psychology of food and stuff like that, but really what it's doing is telling you foods that you can and cannot eat, just in a nice way.
Interesting. Thanks for explaining that, 'cause I'm also seeing those commercials all the time.
Yeah.
Okay. Ooh, I was on a no-fat diet, lost weight, but I was cold.
Oh yeah, no, our listen, we need our insulation to keep us going. And depending on what age you're in and what else you have going on, fat's incredibly important for our body to function. We need fat for so many things. Yeah, and when you severely restrict the sources of calories from fat, yeah, you'll lose weight, but you will also run into some health issues, which includes being cold.
Okay. Well, thanks for mentioning that. All right. Let's give it another second here, but I'm not seeing anything. Jenny, thank you for everything as always.
Absolutely. Thanks so much for having me this afternoon. I always appreciate being here with you guys.
Of course. And everyone who's on, enjoy the rest of your day.
Yes, absolutely. Thanks.